Morning, everybody. John Sfiecla here, reporting to you from Marshfield, Massachusetts, where the sun just came up a little while ago. Got Paul Beyer, Luda Kopakina, Tim Andrews, and Ankaj Mohindra talking about AI and its impact on your life. You can find our articles at gaiinsights.com/articles. Please feel free to make comments, and we'll try to include those in the conversation. Got a lot of interesting articles today, everything from a lovely new opinionated guide from our friend Ethan Mollick, down through how Plex Coffee is using OpenAI to make their coffee experience better. All right. Ankash, will you start us off with the first one, please?
Sure, thanks, Sean. So the first one we have for today comes from Ethan Mollick, and it is titled An Opinionated Guide to Using AI Right Now.
Yes, our friend Ethan, doing a great job here, I think. But what do you think, Luda?
Yeah, I think it's an essential read. It really is a guide, very accessible. So Ethan argues that we're out of the hype stage of AI, that at least 10% of people using it all the time, like weekly. And he lays out foundations of how do you pick a particular model that is among the top performing models per your needs, and then shows how you can look at advanced capabilities like research, multimodal input, the documentation generation, and the like. But the main point that he stresses is that the technology will go not linearly. It will expand and improve dramatically all the time. What is more important is to building intuition of how you use it effectively today. And so it's this encouragement emphasizes how you quickly can get there and start using it, paying attention to hallucinations that still can happen, to biases that can still happen, loading documentation, and not worrying about perfect prompts. So essentially saying, look, experiment, have fun, and that's the more important than perfection here. So I loved it. I think it's a very good, essential read for anybody, actually.
Yeah, I think he combines the combination of what's good for free, what's good for paid, and which models are better for which, right? And those are the kind of questions we get all the time. Well, we're prejudicing the witness here. What do you think, Paul?
Oh yeah, definitely essential. I think it's interesting. It really reflects a lot of what we're seeing in all this Gen AI 101 education, where people just want to know what tools they use. I think it's notable that we're starting to see some coalescing around the four majors, if you will.
Yeah.
It's OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, and Grok, and the four majors, if you will, on the Chinese models, DeepSeek, Kiwi, Z, and Qwen, as the kind of two major buckets out there. It's interesting, Meta Llama and OpenAI's open source is kind of off to the side, but those two are the two major categories, I think, of the leaders. But very accessible, definitely essential.
All righty. And Ankash, where are you on this?
Definitely essential, John. I think as Paul mentioned, we have been hearing all these questions every now and then from our customers, from our trainers, people who are joining us in our trainings, and from our experience as well. I think we have been an AI first company for the past 2.5 years now, but still every now and then there are things about these tools that we come to know, and we are surprised by that, right? So having this ready reckoner, which provides a basis to start with on how to select these tools, I think that's an essential read for anyone.
And Tim, what do you think?
I'm okay with essential. I wasn't quite as bowled over by it as everybody else, because it's really aimed as much at individuals as it's aimed at corporate functions. So, but I'm okay with it because it's good, and it does, what's the phrase you've been using, Paul? Helicopter you up a little bit and remind you just how fast things are moving and what's out there. So that's a good reminder for an AI leader to have. But if I look at what I do day to day, this is not going to have a big impact. It's useful, but not earth-shattering.
Yep. No, I hear you. You reminded me of Paula Poundstone here, Tim, playing with the cats. Anyway, okay, we're going for
I love Paula Poundstone.
she's this woman. Anyway, we're gonna go for essential in this one. All right, Ankash, next, please.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from DeepSeek, and it is about DeepSeek OCR, context optical compression.
Yeah, so interesting about how important this ability to read documents is starting to be, whether PDF documents or other complex documents. Yeah, what do you think here, Akash?
So, John, what they have done here is instead of having the traditional route to reading a document, they are converting text into image like a page scan, and then they are running it through a vision encoder. So basically, that image is compressed into a small number of visual tokens, which then can be read by a decoder when needed into the context window. So what this is helping is with uh, if a page normally takes, let's say, 1,000 tokens in a text format, it can be represented with just 100 visual ones. So basically, a 10-to-1 kind of a compression ratio, and the accuracy percentage I think is around 97%. So not a lot, a loss of accuracy. And how they're positioning it is for infinite context windows. So right now, the one of the bigger challenges with LLMs is the context window. So DeepSeek is positioning it as a long context problem. Uh, I thought this is an optional read right now for an AI leader, I think, because they can't do a lot with it right now. Once it is developed into a proper tool, which is maybe embedded in LLMs, and then it
Yeah.
expands the context window, then it will be a useful thing.
All right, going for optional. Tim, what'd you think? Can't hear you.
Sorry, I had myself on mute. I agree. I think it's really interesting, but optional. I think the thing that catches my attention is if you ask somebody 15 years ago, what's harder, natural language processing or object recognition via images, I think almost everybody would have said object recognition via images because vision is just, in theory, harder. But in fact, it turns out maybe vision is easier. I think the models are much better at vision than they still are at language. And so this is an arbitrage, as we like to say in the investment world. Well, if vision is better and cheaper, I'm just going to convert my language structure into vision and do it there. But the bigger issue is that vision is amazing. Vision recognition and detection is amazing.
Yeah, you make a fantastic point, Tim, about the relative arbitrage of compute and inference and expense, if you will. Luda, what you think?
Yeah, it follows the adage of a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And it's interesting that now technology is doing it. This is an interesting innovation, but I agree with Ankash. It's optional for now until it becomes a little bit better developed. But I think this is the innovation that all the foundation models will start incorporating. I think.
Paul? Can't hear you.
Oh, it's so frustrating. Definitely optional, but I do want to put a footnote, John, into that acquired podcast that one of our clients sent us about Google, the AI company.
Yes.
Great podcast. But in there, they had a great, interesting nugget, Luda, where at Google, one of the things that really unlocked it was everyone refers to as a cat paper. But looking at images that identify cat. And the reason I was so important, because that technology then allowed them to unlock all the descriptive value in YouTube. Because up until then, YouTube only had the descriptions that the person who uploaded the video. Now they actually go in the video and see it. So, yeah, vision's important here.
Yeah, same thing here. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Last thing I do want to say is, I mean, back to Tim's point at PDF, we see this again. We saw this way back in 2020. I want to talk with my own data, and often my own data is in, PDFs, and that's what corporations are.
But remember, what this is going at is the quadratic expansion in tokens when you're using a long window, right? So it cuts it quite dramatically. So we are there after performance big time.
Yes.
And it is a great technique. That's why I think everybody will pick it up. It's just not yet.
Yeah. No, very interesting. Vitally important area, optional particular paper, but an area to keep an eye on. All right. Next, Ankash.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from Anthropic, and they have launched Claude for Life Sciences.
Yeah, Tim, what do you think of this?
Well, it's obviously essential, in my opinion, for anybody in the life sciences industry. I think it's marginal, optional, important for others. The reason I would lean maybe a little bit towards important is because it shows structurally how these LLMs go into vertical markets and that their broad capabilities can be fairly rapidly tuned to a specific market to great effect. So they just, got some domain expertise and went into the processes of life sciences, connected all the really critical data sources and processes, and poof, you've got a platform now that's pretty targeted at life sciences. So a good lesson in general across industries, but particularly important for life sciences, and looks quite powerful. I mean, it's a demo, it's a product announcement, but it is from a major frontier model vendor, and certainly the demos they gave are pretty impressive.
John, you might be on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I'm actually with Vivek online calling essential here. I think it's I think the trend is really important, that this is a product announcement, but this trend that these hyperscalers or frontier labs now are going into vertical areas. And for me, the simplistic thing is companies used to have an employee called payroll manager, and that got moved out of the company to the ADP. And I think we've seen the same thing here, a bunch of high level cognitive work here. And these companies have to get price premium products. And one way they do that is start verticalizing. OpenAI has already talked about it, potentially $20,000 a year coder or virtual analyst. And I think this is what we're going to see in the next 2 or 3 years, and AI leaders need to be aware of this.
Yeah. And Luda, where are you on this?
Yeah, it's certainly important. I would be okay with essential, because this is showing how you can take a lot of information per industry and build something very useful. And we've seen it, like OpenAI. It's one of the 4 did the financial. Which one I forget, but it's already starting to happen on the verticalization.
Yeah.
So this is a great trend.
Ankash. Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons I thought this was more important than just for life sciences, is because there's always this debate about, well, should we create a vertical model versus use a larger frontier model? This is one of the places where it shows you these frontier models have tremendous advantages because they have platform capabilities. So it's a partial solution, as we might say, to a broad array of problems. And if it's good, then getting to the final solution is much, much simpler and faster. So the fact that they already have connectors, that they already can read PDFs and all sorts of stuff, is an enormous advantage. And they're just honing that for a particular industry. So I think it's not clear that creating a model from scratch, for instance, fine-tuned for life sciences, is going to beat the speed and the capability of these broad models.
Well, and Tim, keep going to this. 3 years from now, AI is going to continue to improve. What if Anthropic says, listen here, we're only going to give this incremental improvement for life sciences to these customers here? So the incremental availability of this stuff could be a very important competitive thing in the future.
Totally.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
I think the one place I would think is that I think we've gone deep in a couple of, if you think of like what is Turing computable of reality, right? We've gone super deep in language, and we've gone super deep in certain kinds of video and visual. We haven't gone super deep in molecules and DNA and things like that. So I think there's going to be and we haven't gone deep in material science. The physics is kind of, it's kind of funky. We've got, some of the vision models and so forth. I think I hear you, Tim, and I agree with you in terms of the complementary assets of the platform leaders. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the big folks like if I were running something like a Pfizer, who has quite substantial resources, the notion of creating foundation models built on other representation systems and then integrating them with this capability, I think is going to get interesting. And
it's possible for companies that have vast resources.
Right.
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
But even they have to fight the constant advance, right?
Yeah.
So yes, so there can be a fast follower thing, right? Where this is kind of the DeepSeek thing, right? They just distilled what everybody else had already done, and it's possible that something like that will work. So yeah, I agree, and I do agree that in things where there are radically different languages, like proteins and DNA,
right?
Separate models work much better because they're really working on fundamentally different structure. So yeah, there are exceptions, but I think those are the exceptions.
Well, Tim, I know we got 7 articles. We're beating the hell out of this one here. Tim, do you think a AI engineer who can actually build a foundation model would even ever consider working for Pfizer?
For the right sum of money, sure.
No, I think there are people who.
I think the bigger problem is, can Pfizer get out of its own way? Because most of these large corporations have a great deal, because it's not the building of the model. Okay, actually, I shouldn't say that. Building these frontier models is still pretty tricky, but that could become commoditized faster than we think. The hard part is you have to maintain the model, deploy the model, run the model, keep up with the Joneses. It's all the other stuff around really developing and maintaining a frontier model that make it difficult, even if you can get the corporation to make the first step, which is, we're going to do this, which I think is the hardest problem.
Yeah.
And also, Tim, it's about the industry knowledge that was loaded in and making sure that it stays current, it is updated, all of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a lot of it. And there could be huge advantage. If I was running AI for Pfizer, I'd be all over this. Absolutely, especially right now, because they have the resources to do it, and they have proprietary data that might give them a significant competitive advantage. So I would certainly be looking at it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I think as a general trend too, just the speed and depth of scientific discovery that's coming is going to be mind-blowing. All right, let us move on. Another article here on Anthropic, bringing Claude Code.
Yes, John. Yeah, so this one from TechCrunch, and Anthropic has now brought Claude Code to the web.
All right, Tim, you're still up. Keep going.
So this is, I think, interesting, but I would call it optional for the general AI leader. Maybe I could lean towards important. Claude Code, I think, doesn't have the lead it had 3 or 4 months ago, ChatGPT 5, in the coding world. So this is about Claude Code, which is generally viewed as a developer tool. It's usually used from what we call CLI, the command line interface, which is an unbelievably ancient form of interface that developers still seem to love, so they can protect their territory, I guess, for no better reason than I can understand. But at any rate, what it does is it keeps it a developer tool. So what Anthropic has done here is made it accessible via chat on the web. So that opens up possibilities a lot and could make it quite interesting as a developer's tool, but it's still viewed as kind of a developer's tool. So I think that limits the broader utility of it. So for developers, could be quite important. Although I think there's developers will tend to say, hey, what do I need any stinking user interface for? I love my command line because that's why I am.
Well, simple systems, they tend to be fairly robust in terms of change.
But it's more complicated, actually. CLIs are more complicated. It's like, remember the old airline interfaces? Well, I won't go down the rabbit hole, but we can tell lots of stories about this. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Luda, what do you think?
It's more complicated to do a command line interface than a user interface, than a graphical interface.
I was between optional and important on this one. This is a natural expansion of what Anthropic is doing with the code platform. Since it's Anthropic, maybe important, but it's sort of like the next step. I wasn't surprised in seeing this. This is what I was expecting.
Right. And Vivek pointed out, and I forgot to mention that Codex R, which is OpenAI's version of Claude Code, already has a web interface. So this is a bit of catch up as well.
All right, Paul.
100% optional.
Ankash?
Optional, John.
Okay, optional it is. Next.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This is a case study from OpenAI, and it is titled Plex Coffee Delivers Fast Service and Personal Connections with ChatGPT Business.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, if you don't think you can differentiate anything, just think of the coffee business. I mean, my goodness, right? I mean, there's new entrants all the time. Anyway, what do you think here, Luda?
It's an interesting case. I was between optional and important on this one, but it describes a coffee entrant, right, that wanted to differentiate on affordability, convenience, and community. And the founders had their own way of engaging with customers and wanted to make sure that when they onboard part-time staff, that they actually encourage them to do the same. Yeah. The problem was that when they expanded the number of shops, they couldn't quite do it. So they tried different things. They wrote the handbook and people didn't read it. So they did the ChatGPT based on ChatGPT Business, and that worked. And they have a computer in each store that people can ask questions, and they're using it in location research, demand pattern analysis, and supply chain automation. And so this is an AI first type of a small company expanding rapidly. So for that side, I think it's important. But in general, I think it's a weak case, really. Doesn't have how they did it, doesn't have any metrics per se. It just says, we did it. So for that reason, it's optional.
Ankash?
You must be on mute.
Yes. So optional for me, John. I didn't think it had enough meat to be rated important or essential.
All right, we got a thin chicken here. What do you think, Tim?
Nothing burger for me. Yep. I mean, again, we keep saying, guys, just look at your competition, especially AWS. I mean, this is a nice description of a use case, and you can learn some things here. But you have to really dig beneath the tea leaves to learn anything at all. The only thing I took away from this is, this is sort of validation that once you experiment and the leaders get used to something, they can find other uses for it. Great. But they didn't really talk beyond very vague descriptions about exactly what they did, how they rolled it out, how they maintain it, and what impact it's had on the business. Other than that, it was great.
Paul?
Optional.
Optional. All right, optional it is. Ankash next.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Harvard Business Review, and it is titled How GenAI Can Create More Time for Leadership.
All right, as I was reading this, Tim, I was reminded of what you said about Marvin Minsky. Any science that needs science in its name is not a science. But of course, it's lovely to assign the consulting social science article to you. Go for it.
Well, there's some good things in here, but overall, I gave this an optional. I think, first of all, I will admit my bias. I had a frightening reaction to what we're going to do is have leaders chat with ChatGPT to learn how to create soft skills. And I can look in the mirror and say, maybe that's not a half bad idea, because actually having a dispassionate observer of some sort to converse with is well known in psychotherapy circles to be a very useful form of communication. But, between sycophancy and hallucination and the fact that, gosh, if you're really in a senior position, you don't know these soft skills, at least to a basic level, probably true, but kind of frightening to me. And the way we're going to solve that is by saving you time filling out promotion forms and sending you a ChatGPT to say, here's how you should have this difficult conversation with your subordinate, was not exciting for me. So optional for me.
You're not saying that the Harvard Business Review is publishing sycophanty obviousness, are you? Anyway,
Yes,
Lula?
I think that's exactly what it was. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I was triple optional. It just really, I agree with Tim wholeheartedly. It just, I think it's obvious. I think HR leaders in general are selected for their skills in dealing with personalities and the like. So I just think it's not non-starter.
Paul, where are you on this?
1000% agree, optional.
Akash?
Optional, John.
All right, let me take 2 seconds to make the case for important. I think that there is an insufficient, there's a little bit of data in here and so forth and so forth. And usually I don't weigh in with these kinds of things, but I think there's insufficient attention to how we can use these tools, not just for automation, but for augmentation and especially from a leadership way. And I think that a reminder so that you get in short-term memory and your cognition of what some of these key issues are, how you deal with people and what kind of empathy you should do and so forth, to me is kind of like a leadership version of washing your hands before you eat or cook something. So I don't think it's about the breakthrough of the material. I do get really annoyed by some of this stuff. It's like, okay, well, you can actually use the time to deal with people. Another part of this is that this doesn't deal with any of the real power dynamics. I think for me, the real issue is how much of the increased value by AI is shared by labor. And we're not having that conversation, right? We're having kind of the surface conversation of, oh, you can make people feel good. So I don't know. I guess I'm talking myself back into optional. So
Vivek has an interesting point about spending time on performance reviews and getting AI in helping position it and the like. That's true, Vivek,
yes,
absolutely. But this article is not about that. It's not about.
Well, I have an even bigger issue with it. Okay, and I've had this conversation at least a dozen times in the past 6 months, which is, this stuff is going to bring Socratic method teaching. Everything, everybody's going to have a private tutor. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm like, sounds great, but who designs the curriculum?
right.
So yeah, it could be really useful to have executives get coaching from an AI tutor on soft issues. But if you don't put the effort in to create a true curriculum, you're just randomly surfing the internet for advice on how to talk to people effectively, right? And that doesn't sound like a great plan to me.
Yeah, I mean, as a guy who used to do discussion teaching for a living, when people say Socratic method, they really don't know what they're talking about. If you've actually dealt with Socratic method, it's a pain in the neck. I mean, they killed Socrates.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Well,
yeah, and the important thing is there has to be a what I think of as a curriculum. There have to be objectives, and there have to be some understanding of what's most likely to lead the student towards those objectives. And this is sort of saying, hey, ChatGPT's got all the answers. Isn't it great?
Yeah. Anyway, the whole Socratic thing, we have another whole conversation because political movement, a lot of times organizations are about getting people to march in the same direction. And a lot of times questioning is the wrong way to get there. Anyway.
Exactly.
All right. When is management manipulation? Okay, Akash, next and last article.
And before we go to that one, John, have we seen like a Peter Drucker LLM? I mean, to Tim's point on the curation of the experts.
That would be a great idea, actually.
Yeah, be great. Yeah, I think no, and we also need a Karl Marx LLM, right?
Right.
Yeah. The thing that I think the general neocon movement and so forth has done really well is it's taken the legitimacy of the question of the extraction of value out of capitalist activities completely off the table. It's just not a legitimate conversation anymore. And so it's interesting. Anyway, we'll see. Okay. Ankash.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from VentureBee, and it talks about how developers can now add live Google Maps data to Gemini-powered AI app outputs.
Yeah, strangely, that map underneath looks a lot like Harvard University, if you know with the bend of the Charles River. Anyway, what do you think about this, Ankash?
I think this is an important product, John. So basically, they have made this update to Gemini AI model family, where developers can now integrate geospatial data from Google Maps. So basically, you can get all the data about all different places, their opening times, their business hours, their reviews, amenities, photos, everything in the Gemini model family itself. I think it's a great enhancement to the kind of information that we get from LLMs right now, because when you ask it for specificity about a particular place, their opening hours, and all of that, it hallucinates a lot. It gives you a lot of wrong information. So this will ground those responses in the uh, information from Google Maps. So I think this is an important product that everybody using Gemini models can integrate into their products to give better user experience.
So that makes it important or essential?
I would say important for now, John, just to see how viable this is for in terms of cost and the additional requirements that they need to make, and also how it performs, right? If it performs great, then it's essential.
Great. Yeah, no, I know we're also running over on time here. So, Tim, what'd you think?
I was between optional and important. I mean, this is important for developers, but it's effectively a developer's tool, so that's a pretty limited audience. It's also a product announcement, so there's a lot of questions about price. It is an important product, so I could support important because of that, because it is Gemini and it is Google Maps, which, by the way, if you want to look at what computers are really good at for the average non-technical person, Google Maps is the single best example I can point to.
Paul?
I would like to make a case for essential. I was wondering when Google will play this card.
Yeah.
It differentiates Google. This pushes the accuracy of a class of cases to the next level. All this stuff about like pricing, all of that will get sorted out. But as a card and ability and capability, then this is essential for the market.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's essential. You okay with essential, Paul? I had it there.
Sure. Yeah, I think yes. Essential. We're short on time. Essential. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, and when you think about the different models, everybody's going to have to use something like Google Maps for that class of cases you're talking about, Luda. I mean, this is a huge strategic advantage for Google.
Huge capability.
Well, and I think one quick thing on that, John, is I think one of the things that Google's done a really good job, and they mentioned it in that acquired podcast, is that the 40 or 50 data points they have on each location as a source of truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is something that's unsurpassed in the industry in the physical world.
Yeah, and hard to replicate.
Yeah.
Okay, Akash, you have the code board for us, and Paul, I think you have an announcement.
Yeah, an announcement today at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We have another free training. Today is going to be on Copilot. So every Tuesday at noon is Copilot, and every Thursday is ChatGPT. So join us. You can sign up at our website, GAIinsights.com.
Okay, great. Any other important things for folks to know? We got 3 essentials today and 4 optional. So in or out. So have a great AI day. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.